there's a lot of wisdom that came to get from point A to point B.
Of course.
And you know, when you look at that, young folks have an opportunity to see a ton of stuff change and to move with it and to be, you know, be staples and pillars in the industry when they become my age. And folks that are my age, there's a new beginning, okay? Because now we have qualified ourselves based on something that we can create. It's not
Right.
even a resume anymore. It's, hey, where are you now? And that is social media.
Yeah.
Social media is not going anywhere. No one is going to just decide tomorrow to put the phone down. It's just not going to happen.
One of the more obvious segues of a career is going from, let's just be very loose with this description, Hollywood to the mortgage industry. Said or did no one ever, except for today's loan officer spotlight with Patrick Brock. And I've heard this story, so I'm excited to share this story because it's very unique. Patrick, welcome, my friend.
Thank you very much. Man, it's an honor to be here. I really
It's an honor
appreciate
to have you, man. So
it.
I've already set the table, but let's before we get to Hollywood, give us just a little background about you, where you come from, what led you to the mortgage business, all that kind of stuff.
Well, that's actually, you know, that ends up being wrapped up in the story a bit, you
Perfect.
know, how I
Perfect.
actually got here. But, you know, born and raised in Southern California, I was sort of around the business all the time. Um, I had the super neat honor to be a child actor. I kind of sort of fell into it as a dare, which was hilarious. My cousin actually said, "Hey, you should probably, you know, put your face in this J.C. Penney catalog list of, you know, little pictures of people." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll do that. It's free, no worries." Ended up getting a call. So that ended up kind of, you know, starting this hobby. And I call it a hobby because I really never looked at it as anything more than that. I just was just having a good time. I think I really just wanted to be at the beach with the brothers and the friends. So I turned down a lot of stuff, but but during those years, it was super fun to be able to be around production and be around, you know, the cameras and all that kind of stuff. But I quickly found that I was more interested in being behind the camera than in front.
Hmm.
So I started asking questions, which I guess there's a lesson in that for all of us, right? Hey, ask questions and listen. So I did. I did a lot of that as a kid, and ended up through that process getting a champion who sort of, you know, saw some potential in me to drag me through this melee called Hollywood. So there you go.
That is a very broad overview. I got to ask a question about the childhood part of it. What's the coolest or best story from that kind of segment of your life?
You know, it's probably getting an opportunity to be on an ABC sitcom. I was cast as one of the sort of atmosphere extra people. But in chit chatting with some of the directors early on, they said, "Hey, let's make this guy the mail boy." So I was like the youngest guy on the set for sure. But I had some really fun interactions with a lot of actors that were on the set, like Tony Quinn and Sandra Bullock.
Hmm.
Still very close with her. She was the star of the show at the time, and she was just starting her career. So it was kind of neat to be around someone that now I look back and I go, wow, you know, she's done a ton and sort of made it a career. For me, again, it was about the people and the interactions. I just love stories and people. So I think that was probably the pivotal moment. You know, I was on that show for a couple of seasons, so I was working every day, which is a little bit different than a lot of people's experience in Hollywood. I got a check every week, which was odd. And as a union actor, you know, you were able to sort of interact with some other people, get invited to some events, some parties, things like that. At which point I, you know, met a lot of really neat people, everyone from Michael J. Fox when he was sort of
Hmm.
huge back in the day, and I'm totally dating myself here, but I love it. And some of those interactions with those folks really introduced me to some other folks that furthered my career in the production side of things, like the director, the first AD. Again, listening and sort of learning on the go, on the set, was a fun opportunity for me. So yeah.
What age was that?
I was probably in my late teens, so I would say between the ages of 17 and 20,
Okay.
right in that time frame.
Got it. And then at what at what age then did you shift to behind the camera effectively?
So it obviously took a few years. I wanted to get to college and play a little soccer, so I did a little bit of that. San Diego, California, which if I can move anywhere in the world, it'd probably be there. Can't afford it
Mhm.
yet, but we're getting there. But nonetheless, yeah, San Diego was a wonderful opportunity for me to go to school. I went to school for business law, which was really odd because I just figured, hey, look, I don't know if I'm going to make this film thing a career or not. But right after college, I was snatched up by a studio to read contracts, which did make sense. It was, business law and writing and reading contracts. Um, but I did end up having a producer keep coming by my office every now and again saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" And I'd come out from behind that desk and I would, shake his hand. And he just said, "Man, this guy is a bundle of energy. I think you need to not be in here." So he basically swiped me up as his production coordinator, and I was sort of off to the races in the production side. So I quickly went from reading contracts to getting an opportunity to be a second AD, and then kind of moving up through the ranks and until I became a producer and director myself.
Which led you to, I mean, from the conversation, the time that you and I've had together, it led you to Disney. And you've
Yes.
had several stops along the way, and you mentioned it: Focus Films, Time Warner, Disney, and then of course ESPN, ABC. Kind of they're
Yep.
kind of a part of Disney, right?
Right. Yeah, what isn't now?
Yeah,
But
true.
that aside, no, I did. I made the studio hops for sure. But my champion at the time was a former Disney Imagineer. He was out of that side of the business at that time, but he knew a lot of people. So he connected me with some folks, and I had an opportunity to come on board with Disney and Disney Channel primarily at the onset, and then I transitioned over to Disney Feature. And then during those years, and we're talking about at this point, late 90s, early 2000s, obviously Disney acquired ESPN, which was a huge take for us at that time. And talk about stereotypes. Somebody came by my office and said, "Hey, you're a young dude. Would you like to work for ESPN?" And I'm like, "Oh, gee, that if I was offended at all, I would, but I'm not. Yes, I will go. I'm in." So I did go. It was super fun. I produced Game Day for years with the
Wow.
Home Depot sponsorship. Everybody's kind of probably seen that on Saturday mornings if you're a college football fan at all. But spending time sort of on college campuses every weekend there for a while was burning me out.
Mm.
That's all I can tell you. Yeah, it was 16-hour days at times, and it was tough. But through that experience, I sort of really honed in my skill set and had an ability to, have the right conversations with people. Said, "Hey, I want to go into the sales development side. I would love to, sort of acquire, more networks and things like that." So we launched a bunch of stuff at that time. We launched a goofy network called SoapNet, which is soap operas. We did launch ESPNU, which is still going strong, and I love that network. So there was some really neat things that happened in there, but yeah, it led me sort of to that. I ended my career in Hollywood essentially at Fox. And it was just an opportunity that did give me what I wanted. It's not so much a desk job, but something that I thought this was better for a family, and having kiddos and trying to be closer to home. So that was something that I was really looking for at the time, and I was sort of done running ragged and thin.
That was what I was just gonna say. Disney kind of ran you ragged, didn't they?
Yeah, it did. It did. And it does. Anybody that you talk to that's worked for the organization is great, and the perks are dynamite. The kids loved it. The silver pass and traveling all over the place on their dime. Great, but I wasn't there. No, I'm kidding. They traveled almost essentially on their own at times.
Sure.
But it was a fun experience nonetheless. So
Yeah. So I got to ask you because I am a sports fan. Who were the game day guys? Was it? I assume Lee Corso was still a part of
Oh,
that.
Lee Corso. You know what? Berman was still doing it at the
Oh
time.
wow. Okay.
And so he was still around, very, very connected to what we were trying to do because it was his brand. But Stuart Scott was probably my favorite. He passed away a little
Yeah.
while back. But
Was Herb
you
Street
and I
there?
were, what's that?
Herb Street?
Yes, yeah. Herb Street and Berman and Stuart Scott, these guys would sort of hang out in our suites at the games, and they would be able to greet some of the clients we had, which was really kind of neat to see some of these people that really don't need to do that, but they really wanted to make sure they were, touching people personally. And I learned a ton just watching them because I was sort of in awe. I always wanted the seat at the desk, sort of a thing. I
Yeah.
could do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, game day, no problem. I could do play-by-play anytime.
It's pretty fascinating how that has evolved, and now guys like Pat McAfee are really, just
Yeah,
taking
yeah.
off with it. It's
I
fascinating.
know, I know, and I love it. I love to see it. Super successful people have made their way in a way that I think is inspiring to anybody that sort of wants to get into the business. I saw several people come in the door that you're like, yeah, that kid's never gonna, he's never gonna amount to much. And then all of a sudden you see this, wow, he just got it. And so anytime I have an opportunity to sort of share, and really the backbone of your podcast is, hey, there is possibility.
Yeah.
There is possibility out there. All you have to do is look for it, find it, and then grab it, run with it. So
Right.
anyway,
That's right. Okay. So now you go from, again, as I mentioned in the intro, this career, which has zero to do with real estate and
yep,
mortgage, and
yep.
somehow ended up in the mortgage industry. How'd that happen?
Well, and that's where, there's in every good story, there are some peaks and valleys. For me, it was truly I was losing the family. I needed to decide real quick if I was going to be married to this thing or if I was going to be married to something else.
Mm,
And I joke, my wife gave me an ultimatum. That's not actually true. We had a really good discussion, but I sort of looked at it that way. I thought, hey, this does make sense. I need to decide what to do here, and what's that going to be?
yeah.
So it was tough to get out of the industry, to be honest. It took about 6 years
Mm,
when I decided this is it. I'm going to make this my last stop. It took 6 years to get out. So I had an opportunity, though, through Fox. It was a great organization to stay on and finish the projects I was working on, and even do a ton of freelance as I transitioned out of the industry. And I took the leap to Colorado. We had made a stop here in Colorado Springs years back for a project, and also a stint at another studio, which was awesome. But we knew we always wanted to come back here. So when I came here, I sort of was, deciding what I wanted to do. There was a lot of opportunity, I think. Just if I had called the right people, I could have probably landed some, but not something that I wanted. So I started a Brock Media Consulting group, and with that, I did end up getting a ton of jobs from local folks, people up in Denver, and it was fun. It was a great opportunity for me to sort of stay in the business. But I then got my first call from a real estate company. Said,
mm.
"Hey, I know this is a little bit. We looked at your stuff and all that kind of stuff. Do you think you could come in and teach our group how to do video?" And I was like, "I sure, yeah. I mean, I didn't really think this would be part of the deal." So I wasn't actually producing any content for them. I was really just teaching them how to do it themselves and kind of showing them the way. And that was super fun. And then I had I was on a golf course, and I had another real estate broker come up to me and said, "Hey, you did this for Realtor A. Can you do it for us?" And I said, "Sure." And these two companies were vastly different. One was 10 agents running a very boutique shop, and the other was 75 agents, which he'd hire anybody to fill a seat, right? So
Mhm.
so being able to kind of run both of those differently, and the campaigns I ran there were fun and different. And they centered around testimonials, personal testimonials that people that really, move their business. And then, of course, I ended up having to get a call from a mortgage lender. And they said, "Hey, would you like to come on as a marketing director for our company. We're transplanting to Colorado Springs from Denver. We'd love to have you come on board. So I signed a deal with them for a couple of years to be their marketing director. At the end of that 10-year, they asked, would you like to come on as a loan officer? And I went, let me think about that for a minute. So I left, came back and said, you know what? It's a certification. I love, the industry, right? So I said, sure. If it allows me to be with the people, in front of the people, and change lives, I'm in. So I ended up getting that license with that company and working for them for a couple of years. I then wanted to sort of run a branch and have an opportunity to sort of manage people, lead people, mentor, and change lives through a team effort. So I ended up leaving at that point.
That's wild, man. And now I read your another story, which was I called it the craziest story, and you explained where you walked into a builder office. Tell that story and kind of what
All
how
right.
it plays into all of this.
Yeah. That was a fun one. There's a very higher end community out in the Springs here where they were starting to build some custom built homes. I said, hey, I want to get in here and I want to do some business in this new community. I want to be the lender for the realty company. So I went into their little spec office there. And typical, the framed map in the middle of the room, which lot do you want, all that kind of stuff. And there were a bunch of builder signs on the wall. And I was having this conversation with a sales lady there. I said, hey, I'm a lender. I'm looking to partner with you. I think we can do a ton of great business together. I can save you time, effort, and energy if you utilize me and my team. And she and I hit it off. We had a great conversation. I said, I want my sign up on that wall, if that's possible. And she told me, well, let me see what I can do. Let me see if. Now, right about this time, some guy in the back of this building yells. I recognize that voice. This guy's yelling. And I'm like, oh no, we got a fire drill here, right? So he comes out and he says, is that Patrick Brock? And I said, yes, it is. I hadn't seen this guy for 15 years at
Wow.
least. Okay.
Wow.
He comes out, giant of a man. Of course, everybody's a giant of a man to me. I don't know about you, Jeff, but giant of a man engulfs me, hugs it out, and says, what in the world are you doing in my building at this time? And we had a great conversation. This gentleman was one of my first partners and investors in a film project. He struck a large check to allow us to do a 27-part series overseas. And he was a wonderful friend, a great guy, and I stayed connected to him. But I think out of context, whenever you see someone in a different setting, you're just like, what are you doing? I thought I was about ready to call you to see if you had another project. And he was telling me all this stuff. And I said, no, now I am in your neck of the woods. Let's do some business together. So it was an incredible, rekindling of a friendship.
Yeah.
And he said, hey, what can I do to push your business? And I said, well, I've got a couple of builder partners. We'd love to buy a few lots in here. He gave them to me at a steal, probably half the cost, which if anybody knows anything about building, if it's in the land, that's a good little nut right away. And then they can sort of build upon that.
Yeah.
So it really did allow me to help a couple of builders start their business and grow their business. And it was an incredible experience, a really neat rekindling of a friendship for sure.
Did those builders end up becoming strong referral partners?
Yes, yeah. I still partner with them today,
That's awesome.
and I'm doing a pretty consistent business, even in an environment that we're in now. As we all know, it's a little bit like a roller coaster ride, which is okay because I do know that that no matter who you are, where you sit, there's always going to be an opportunity to be part of a real estate transaction. People are buying and selling all the time,
Yeah.
whether the rates are good or not.
Yeah, absolutely. So one thing you haven't mentioned is now how long has that been? How long once these transitions happened, when you took the job as a loan officer, how long have you now been in the business?
Only about 10 years now, going on about 10. And I just don't want to look back. I just love sort of the opportunity that I have now that I didn't have in any other arm of any other business, which is to touch people personally, where they are, build legacy, which turns into wealth, which turns into, a very, very full life. So
Yeah.
having that opportunity, being on the front lines with that, and at the beginning of that, at that journey for people I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. I love what I do.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now you mentioned builder business. Do you have any other pillars of your business, or you just focus on builder business?
Well, primarily, and I think this is becoming, I think, the norm now, but my realtor relationships, partnerships, are the backbone of my business. I would say it accounts for close to 92, 93% of my
Wow.
business. And then the other are filled by other industry professionals like financial planners, CPAs, builders, investors that I happen to have still sort of in the wings as well. But I think I primarily focus on the real estate agents because I feel like we have something to offer them. I think we can make them better. I think they can be better realtors if they just know a few things about loans, and then they are able to push their business further. So, and I'm not. I mean, this might sound a little different than some, but I like having a lot of realtor partners, and maybe they only give me 3 deals a year, each one. But if you have enough of them,
Yeah.
then you're sort of spreading love. My theory behind that is, I feel like if you put all of your eggs in one basket,
Yeah.
if you're a partner with maybe 2 to 3, and the business does end up going south for one of those builders, then you lose 33.33% of your business,
Yeah.
like just overnight. So I'd like to have that. Now, if I end up capturing all the deals from a few, which I do, all their deals, that's great. But really, I feel like I'm better used when I'm having to deal with a lot of different folks, and different personalities and different ways they do business. So now when I get a sort of an unrepresented buyer, I can identify that realtor that's best going to work for that person and get them connected. So I love it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So if a real estate agent happened to come upon this, or you shared this, and they don't know much about you and your business, why do they want to work with you? And don't give me some cliche answer.
Yeah, yeah. I hear this all the time, and you and I talk about this a lot. And yes, it does. In a way, it sounds a little cliched, but I hear it enough to know that for me, it's resonating. I am an educator. I am not in the business of doing loans. I'm really not. I'm in the business of education. I am a marketing group, right? I'm a marketing company that happens to be a realtor. So that being said, I feel like I focus a lot on education. So when I'm sitting down across the table from a new realtor, and they're like, "Why should I use you? I have like 6 other lenders. What's the deal?" And I tell them straight up, and I'm very confident about this. There's nobody that I know except for myself that can educate your buyers enough to have them come back over and over again. They're going to send their family members, their spouses, their friends to you for the deals. Why? Because I made them better, because I educated them in a way that they haven't heard it before. And I swear I hear this every time. Nobody has ever explained this to me
Mm.
like you just explained it to me. And I said, really? Because that's the only way I know how to do it.
Yeah.
Like, I do walk them through it, and layman's terms aside, I am guiding them in an area that they touch maybe 5 times a year.
Yeah.
And then when they get super focused on purchasing a home, yeah, they're all in, and they try to do their research. They try to jam it in. They're totally cramming for a test is what they're doing. They're not doing it over time. So I'm able to tell them, look, to be perfectly fair, whatever research you've done up to this point is great, but I do this 24/7. So I think you would be doing yourself a disservice to not take some of the intel that I have. Allow me to be a resource for you. When I say that, I mean it. It does sound cliched, but I do want to be a resource for them in
Yeah.
anything. If they don't want to do a deal with me, that's fine. I just want them to say later, you know what, we decided to go with somebody else, but doggone, that stuff you gave me was super valuable, and I'm going to make sure somebody else comes to you for that deal, right? And I'm fine with that, because everybody needs to be smart enough to shop around. This is a big opportunity. So I don't, I always question people that go, hey, I heard your name and I'm going to do a loan with you no matter what. Wait a sec. What? Let me qualify myself first. I appreciate that, but let me tell you why you probably heard that I was the best lender. Let me tell you why. Because I will educate you. I will take you through it step by step until you are an expert and you don't need me anymore. That would
Good.
be super awesome for me. So
Yeah. So if I asked one of your longer tenured real estate partners the same question, why Patrick, do you think they would have a similar answer?
yes, I do. I think they would flat out say yes. He resonates with my clients the way that I expect somebody who may want to smoke screen this whole thing. Like any other lender may say, hey, just sign here. It's the best deal for you. Trust me. No, I'll say, you need to take this opportunity to take this information home, talk to your wife or your husband or your boyfriend, whatever, you talk to them about it, and then come and I'll give you a call tomorrow and we'll talk about what option you like you see in there. And I always say this, I caution them, hey, look, I know the first question is going to come out of your mouth, and I take a shot. I call it taking a shot as a lender. Take a shot. Take a shot on what you think they're going to ask. So I say to them on the phone, I know the question that's burning at the front of your mind right now is, what would you do if you were in my position? And I
Mm-hmm.
go, I'm not answering that question. That's a trick question. I'll tell you what, you tell me what you would do first. I'm going to react to that. And then if you still want my opinion on what I would do, I'll tell you, and I'll tell you why. So a lot of times it ends up being the higher priced deal. And we all know that's the way it goes. It's like, well, why would I choose option B? It costs me more a month. Yep, because in the discussion we had, you said, right? And I remind them what they say. You said you wanted to be in a position to purchase an investment property in 5 years. Is that still the case? Yes. This is the best option for you. If you choose the cheapest option, you're not going to meet your goal 5 years. You let me know what your goals are and I'll get you there. I'm not going to try to get you off track. You let me know and I'll get you there. If you want to be wealthy in 5 years, 10 years in real estate, I'll get you there.
Get
But
you
you
on the
got to be
ground.
ready to buckle down, take the ride.
Which is a good segue to your most memorable client success story.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I love it. Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. It was it was early on, and gosh, every little deal was kind of fun. It's like, hey, look, I opened something for Christmas. Hey, look, I got a little gift. Somebody actually wants to do a deal. But it was difficult. My client had just gone through a divorce. She was really pinching pennies, but she needed to move out of the situation she was in. They owned the house together, and through the divorce settlement, it needed to be sold. So needless to say, there wasn't a whole lot, of money in there for her, but we worked together to find the right product, the right process for her, and to make sure this was clean and easy for her to sort of get into her first home. Okay, so she did. She got into a home on her own. It wasn't much, but the fun part is I didn't hear back from her on this. I actually got a call from a gal who was 22 years old, and she says, "Hey, you helped my mom in a transition in her life that was very, very difficult for her. And not only were you empathetic of it, you cared about her as a person, but you also did the deal, which is also, important, right? We were successful at that. But the connection I made with her lasted a lifetime. And so the daughter ended up saying, I want you to help me with my first home purchase as well.
Nice.
So that was it. I love when legacy happens like that, when you're able to do something for someone else based on a relationship you had. So she did. She and I did that deal. 2 years later, she called me up again and said, "Hey, now the plan that you put in place for me is now coming to fruition, and I want to make good on that goal, and that is to buy an investment property." So the daughter went from buying a little condo. She turned that money over with the plan that I had, and I stayed connected to her every 90 days. You could call her, hey, how you doing? Do you still like the plan? Has anything changed in your life? What can we do different? And she stayed on it. And 2 years later, she purchased her first investment property. Now she is actually thinking that this is such a good second income for her, rental income on this rental, that she may want to keep purchasing homes. And I'm here to help navigate through that process and make sure it's not something that is super risky for her, but is something that makes sense. So that was super rewarding.
That's
Yep.
that's incredible. What a story. And that really also goes back to the whole education piece,
Yeah.
which clearly is conveyed through that story.
Yep.
Now, it doesn't sound to me like you're on retirement's doorstep. So
I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, yes, I'm just listening. I'm just listening.
All right.
But but based on some of the things you said, you should be based on your age. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, of course.
Ageism. Oh
Totally
no,
kidding.
that's good.
So
No, I'm with you. Yeah.
I
I
want
mean,
to know.
I have
I
way
want to
too
know.
much energy to stop.
I
So
want
yeah.
some predictions then. So where do you see this industry going? Let's just say in the next 5 years.
I believe that we are at a time, we are at a crossroads where we're going to weed out a lot of people that feel like this was a quick thing, a quick buck. Hey,
Mhm.
let's get in, let's do all these refi deals, or let's get in. Subprime was a big thing before this one. So yeah, we're at a time now where people have to buckle down, and it's gonna go. I believe this. It's gonna be a strange place we're in, but the whole good old boy network thing it went away for a while, and you stopped using local, and you stopped using, you were just going online, you were bang bang bang, and you were getting her done. I think that's a thing. Yes, you can get a ton of information, and why not? You're way ahead of it. So yes, getting a lot of that information up front as a client is going to help, but those same clients want to shake a hand, they want to meet someone, they want to feel connected somehow to this person that's handling the biggest debt in their life. So I do believe we're going to go back to that, and post-pandemic and all that kind of stuff. We're now at a time where this makes a ton of sense to reconnect with people. But that being said, you have helped me more than you know, because it's not for me, and you and I've had this conversation. It's really not about me not knowing about the social media piece and about a brand and about all that kind of stuff, and a presence, and just being available to people with information. Um, it's more about me implementing it. How do I do that? And I feel like this is going to be a huge thing, especially, look, ageism aside, the joke, but I am at an age where everybody my age knows zero about branding online. They actually don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And I get it. But if I'm able to educate people on that piece, it's a digital calling card. We're not talking about getting a bunch of deals because you make a post. It's about somebody checking you out. What is the first thing you do when somebody says, hey, you should use my guy? First thing you do is look them up. First thing. Now, whether it doesn't matter what platform you find them on or whatever, just you're going to find all their profiles. You're going to be able to dig in a bit. Hey, what is this person doing? Are they educated? Are they new in this business, or where are they at? They're going to get intel on you. And I feel like if we have the right information out there and we branded ourselves correctly, branded, is a big word, but you just have a presence that makes sense for what you're trying to do in your business, then you have legitimized your ability to be able to say, hey, go check out my LinkedIn profile, check that out. Or, hey, I have this YouTube podcast that I've been putting together. Why don't you check that out? It might have some information, or share directly with them from your social media. Yeah. If you don't have that stuff there, you can't do it. So I feel like that is going to be a big component to keeping some of middle-aged people in the business. Yeah. And we need seasoned middle-aged people in the business. And I say this all the time in the financial industry. I don't want a 21-year-old snot-nosed kid that just graduated college dealing with the biggest debt I've got. Yeah. I actually want somebody who has been there, done that. They've been to the highs, the lows. They've lived enough life to get it. So I feel like I am in a unique position, and to be able to position myself and my business to do that in the future. With rates, hey, no one knows. No one knows. We do have an economist coming into the White House. So, hey, does that make sense? Sure. Yeah. I mean, at some level, whether you love and hate it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. If the market likes what is going on in the bigger picture, then you gravitate towards maybe investing in real estate again, maybe jumping in. Maybe that's the key, because it is something you can touch, feel. It's tangible. It's not a coin, right? So maybe it's another option for people. So I feel like real estate will make a huge comeback here, and especially at the end of 2025.
I love it. Good. Hey, that would be fantastic.
Yep.
I hope you're right. So, business aside, who is the Patrick Brock on a personal level?
Well, I like to be, like I told you, I like to be with the people. So I would say, if I did not have outlets, this business, like any business, can get a little cumbersome and monotonous. Sure. So I spice it up. I spice it up with things that I do on the side, whether it's volunteer work or whether I'm doing some freelance projects. I still do some projects for Fox and some other networks, so that gives me a little bit of an outlet. But really, concentrating on those kiddos and getting them through school. My kids, I have four kids, and push them all through college, and they're all doing great. Now I'm sort of at the tail end and can take some time for myself. But I love coaching kids sports. I always
Mm.
have. When I was 20, I coached my first team. It was a varsity high school basketball team, and at my height, which you can't quite tell, but this is ridiculous. The kids were all bigger than me and
Mhm.
pretty much my age. So being able to connect with them at 20 was really neat, and I've never stopped taking an opportunity to coach kids. So I do coach locally here at a school. I coach basketball and soccer,
What age?
4 seasons a year. So
What level of school?
they would be 13, 14, 12, 13, 14-year-olds. Yes.
So like
So
middle school or young high
middle
school?
school. Yep.
Yep.
Preparing
Cool.
them now. I've made connections with all the high schools locally, so they know what they're getting. And we've really kind of grown the program since I've been there. I've been doing it at this particular school for over 10 years, which is super fun. So I see the families, and if you take a peek at my business, a lot of it comes from these new families that come into the program every single season and every single sport. So it does make it, there's a fun connection there because it never ceases to amaze me when some parent comes up and says, "So, are you a teacher here at the school? Because
Mm.
you're really doing a great job with the kid." And I say, "Yeah, no, I have a day job." And they ask what that is. When they find out, they go, "Wow, I had no idea. I would not have guessed. I thought maybe you were a PE teacher or something like that at the school, teaching science," which I always thought about doing as well because I love the education part. So
Yeah.
that's who I am on sort of a daily basis. But really,
Love it.
my transition out of the industry allowed me to be more of a family man. I really wanted to be the dad that was at home, and I had that opportunity to do that. So the really good news is that I'm going to be a grandfather for the first time
Oh,
coming
exciting.
up here in February. So we're going to have our first grand
That's
kiddo. So
fantastic,
yeah.
man. So when those kids are all out of school and moved on, are you and the missus going to stay in Colorado Springs, or are you going to go chase the sunshine in San Diego? What are you going to do?
No, I am definitely gonna stay. We're gonna stay here because two of the four have decided to sort of plant roots
Nice.
close. One is up in Denver. He built his own home at 23, which was really neat to see. And then we have another one that's was a firefighter and now coming home, and they want to sort of plant themselves in Colorado in the area as well. Maybe Grand Junction, something like that. But we still Colorado Springs, I think, is the hub. I have that infrastructure now built here. So we really love it. Now,
Yeah.
a vacation home, sure. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be in La Jolla. Are you kidding? Mission.
I want that invite.
There you go. There you
I
go.
love it, man. That is so good. Very, very well. Two last questions, but one more fun question.
Sure.
And I know the answer because you gave it to me, but I think I would have actually guessed this based on the conversation that we've now had, which coming from a guy who's been in TV and movies and Disney, what's your favorite movie of all time?
Oh, by far, and I do toy with this because I love drama and I do like to get deep. But the funnest and most perfect movie for me is Back to the Future.
Hmm.
I feel like just because I know what it a lot of folks just watch it and they like to pick up on things that went wrong. I just know how hard it was to pull that off. I do know just from being around some of the folks that were in it, Michael J. Fox being one of the really neat guys that I met through the years, but being able to talk with him about the fact that they wrote that movie in its entirety first, and then they had to sort of figure out how they were going to connect everything and double shoot everything. It was an incredible undertaking for Robert Zemeckis, who I think is brilliant. And so it is the most perfect script. Yes, there are little fun, quirky visual bloopers in it, things that you can catch, and you can look them up online. There's a ton.
Really?
But in terms of tip to tip, I think it was the best franchise and the best script ever written. It's Back to the
And you're
Future.
talking about number one, or are you talking about just the whole, each, the
I,
whole?
I, I think the connection to the three, I would say. The three films it was just seamless. It was seamless. And if you even try to beat it up, you'd be hard pressed to actually beat it. I don't think, no, they were right on that. It's like you have to get in and really beat it up. But it's been a fun one. It's a little hard to watch now because it's so old, but
Yeah.
but it is still probably up there. It's my top for sure.
It's fascinating because I imagine your perspective is not like the rest of ours when you're watching a film. Totally
Oh
different.
man, I'm over it now. Nobody ever wanted to watch a movie with me because I was like, yeah, right here and pause it and let's do this. Gosh, I was sort of annoying,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I've honed it in. I'm able to like sit back and watch now and just really enjoy a film and say, wow, okay, I get it. Yeah, I probably would have done that different. I think it's still kind of a fun thing when we're watching something as a family. I will pretty much guess dialogue on a new film or guess an action. I go, yeah, see what's going to happen is this, and sure enough, it does. And they're like,
Does your
what?
family
What?
ever tell you to shut up?
Yes, they do. I love it. But I
Oh,
love,
dude.
hey, I'm the difficult one. I got to be out there. I got to be the difficult one.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. I love it. I love it. So,
Yep.
how does somebody get in touch with you?
Oh man, anytime, I let my mobile number be my guide. I haven't changed that, and I love to make sure I can connect with people any way that they want, whether it's text or email, whatever. But I can always be reached at my mobile number. It's 719-216-8466, right here locally in Colorado Springs. Text or anything, but I also have all my social media profiles, which I know you have, and you've been so gracious to help me with a lot of that kind of stuff too. So, and I'm hammering, I am. I'm working at it.
Sure. Yes, sir. So, what would you say if somebody was curious and they want to go stalk you on the socials? Where would you guide them? Which platform?
Probably LinkedIn would be my
Okay.
first. That's going to be the more applicable information
Mhm.
and education that you can get on real estate for sure and real estate purchase. Instagram, I have a ton of fun with. So I love my new Instagram branding has been a ton of fun. That's where I'll share more of my story which is fun to have folks follow that. But yeah, so I would say those primarily those two platforms. But I do have a TikTok. I do have run the gamut on everything else. So I have a YouTube channel that I'm working on, and I'm being super encouraged to possibly start a podcast. So I'm working with some folks on that
Cool.
right now, and we'll see if
Cool.
that comes to fruition. It will basically start as a Q&A. So I'm allowing sort of folks to come on and say, hey, I have this difficult deal. How do I deal with that? Or whatever, and give them some applicable information that'll help.
Fantastic. Fantastic. This has been a great interview, man. I could just ask you questions for hours, probably
Oh
days,
yeah.
just because it's
Yeah, how
fascinating.
long was our dinner? Good gracious.
Yeah, that was a long one. Yeah,
Yeah,
that
that
was
was a long one. That was,
yeah,
I
that
think
was
we shut it down. They were like, "Can you please leave?" They were
pretty
sweeping around our
much.
feet.
Yeah, I do. We got to do that again. We got to do that again, man.
Definitely, definitely.
Well, I
So
appreciate you being on and sharing your story. This is it's inspiring. It's I think validating because our industry is aged. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, it's a 50 something average age in real estate and mortgage, and you're the guy that's not looking at it and saying, "Oh, I'm too old." You're looking at it saying, "How can I do this?" And I'm gonna do it, and you're doing
yep,
it. And I think you're an
yep.
inspiration to most of this industry, young and old. And so.
I think you're right. The young folks getting in the industry know that if they jump in, man, they have a long career. Because look at these older people;
Yeah.
they're still hanging around, and
Yeah.
they've sort of gone. I don't want to ever discount the fact that when I meet someone that's seasoned, and you say, gosh, yeah, they don't know what they're doing, and they're fat fingering everything, and their
Uh-huh.
text on their phone is huge, and they're just dumb. But there's a lot of wisdom that came to get from point A to point B, and
Of course.
and when you look at that, young folks have an opportunity to see a ton of stuff change and to move with it and to be staples and pillars in the industry when they become my age, and folks that are my age, there's a new beginning. Okay, because now we have qualified ourselves based on something that we can create. It's
Right.
not even a resume anymore. It's, hey, where are you now? And
Yeah.
that is social media.
Yeah.
Social media is not going anywhere. No one is going to just decide tomorrow to put the phone down. It's just not going
Yeah.
to happen.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Amen. Amen. Great way to end this. Patrick, thank you so much. Look forward to
Thank you. This
connecting
is
again
super
soon.
awesome. honor to be on your podcast. Thanks for the invitation, and I can't wait to still continue to interface with you.
Yes, sir.